Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today I spent over $5,000 to embarrass a competitor who treated me like crap. It was totally worth it. So I used to run a small business in the wedding space, and I was very successful in a very short period of time, to the point that I was getting all expense-paid invites to industry conferences less than 6 months after I opened. Needless to say, this ruffled feathers. Enter Kate. Kate is a chief Karen who competes in the same space and has been nothing but awful to me from the moment she became aware that I wasn't just competition, I was doing better business than her. She would complain that I had gotten expenses paid, implied that it was because I was pretty, said that she felt people who had been in the space longer deserved it more, and a statement about how my outfit colors don't look good on me. She also reported my booth for accidentally being less than 3 inches outside our 10x10 slot, and has tried on more than one occasion to have my competing products removed from vendor halls. Needless to say, I despise her. Now, fast forward a little bit into lockdown. I see major issues on the horizon for my business, and so I decide to step out and sell for a pretty penny. Bought a condo, took a job at a nonprofit, and moved along with my life. But some of my friends still in the industry would give me updates or vent, and I was absolutely right to sell. Most everyone doing what I do has already closed, including the person I sold to. Kate, however, was still going strong, though I noticed her prices were really aggressive. My friend then showed me screenshots that Kate had bragged privately about claiming to be unemployed and disabled by using her longtime partner as a cover for her business, then dropping prices below what other sellers could do because she was double dipping. This really made me angry. I have a mobility disability, and I felt horrible for the people she was running out of business by pricing so low. So I, of course, reported her, but nothing seemed to come of that. Then, one of the biggest conferences of our local industry came up on my calendar. This conference cost $8,000 to $10,000 to vend at, and many vendors make 50% plus of their yearly income from this one event. My friend runs the vending hall, so I asked her to place me right next to Kate. Now, when I left the industry, I still had great contacts on the manufacturing side because I speak Chinese fairly well. I found the manufacturer for Kate's top-selling items, and I ordered a sizable inventory to take with me to the conference. I priced them at cost and made ginormous signs about inventory liquidation and created these super aggressive bundle deals that made it nearly impossible for her to do any business being right next to me. I could see her over there fuming, and she did try to come over and complain, but our booth was too busy to even entertain her obnoxious huffing and puffing. She closed her shop last week. I lost about $5,000 doing this, but I got a lot of people deals on packages and items that they never thought they could afford for their special day, and it was honestly fun to help people out, especially at her expense. I have known my parents were cheating on each other for years. They found out and got mad at me. When I was 11, I saw my mom kissing one of her coworkers. Since I didn't know what to do or even who to ask, I ended up talking to that coworker. They worked at a sort of family restaurant, so I was there pretty often, and one day I just told him that I knew about their thing and straight up asked what I should do. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know that he was really nice to me and advised I stay quiet so as to not hurt my father. While it made sense to me, I spent around a year feeling bad for my father whenever I saw Mom leave for work or stay there late. Then, one of the days Mom stayed for the night at the restaurant, my father brought home another woman. It made me have a sort of epiphany. I started thinking that they knew, and after some very productive internet research, I figured they were simply in an open relationship. As I grew older, I realized this wasn't the case. The two jerks somehow managed to put 2 and 2 together after years and noticed I knew, so they started using me to cheat more efficiently. From around my 15th birthday, they started trying to get me to make excuses for each other, ask one of them to go out for the day when they wanted the house alone, and even arrange meetings with their side pieces. They're both some of the stupidest people I've ever met, but they somehow believe that they're geniuses. I think this is what brought them together. They enable each other. But it also meant that they were so busy thinking they were cheating gods to realize the other was doing the same. At some point, I stopped helping them, but I never said anything. It was such a normal thing that it never even crossed my mind telling them. Last year, I started uni and moved away, which meant they had to deal with each other on their own. I figured divorce was coming, didn't expect them to last long without having me around to keep them at peace. You know the way 2 toddlers have to be kept under adult supervision to make sure they don't, throw each other at upcoming traffic? That was what I had been doing ever since I can remember, stopping them not only from making the other one mad, but also separating them whenever they had a bad idea that the other would enable. I was right. They are going to divorce, and they decided to announce this at a family gathering a couple weeks ago. There was a very funny silence when they said it, and it was broken by them starting to fight and trying to get the other to look bad. My mother was oh so hurt by his cheating, and my father was oh so hurt by hers. I couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous. They were acting like complete kids. When I said that, yes, I knew, they both had been doing it for more than 7 years, there was silence. They didn't find this funny. They got so mad at me, started screaming that I ruined their marriage, that they could have worked it out if they had known sooner, that how could I have done this to them, blah, blah, blah. I left and just went to my apartment. I think they only found out about recent cheating, and they might have been mad because outed all those years. Plus, apparently, I've been playing both sides. This 2 weeks since then, I've been receiving calls from everyone in my family. A lot of them are just puzzled my parents would do that. Others know them and are telling me that they're sorry for me. It seems unanimous, though, that I'm a jerk for not saying anything earlier. Personally, I just think that they deserved it. You're telling me that they could peacefully cheat but not be cheated on? It's wild. They're both jerks in many ways, and they're perfect for each other. The fact that they got divorced the moment they knew about the other cheating just proves me right. They wanted it to be hidden. They wanted it to be behind the other's back. Not one single other person in this world deserves to deal with either of these two. They need to stick together to keep them from hurting others. I don't really know what to do. They haven't talked to me at all in these past 2 weeks. The only contact we've had has been through other people. I've never spent this long without talking to either of them. Update. Let's start this by thanking everyone for the support and comments. Most of them gave me so much courage to just step away from the situation. The ones that didn't were those that mentioned how different I was from my parents or how glad they were I didn't turn out like them. Those comments made me feel guilty because I might actually be just like them. Not in the cheating way, that's horrible, but in the manipulative jerk way. So actually getting to what happened, I went on ignoring everything for a couple of days. It's exam season after all. I wanted to take full advice from here. I just didn't know who I could talk to about this in real life. But on Friday, I was talking to a professor and mentioned all of this. She told me that I should look into possibly taking them to court for psychological damages and that sort of thing. That same day, I got an email from my dad's lawyer requesting a DNA test. The cousin I've kept in contact with all this time told me that my dear mother admitted to cheating before I was born, so I may not even be my father's kid. Honestly, I don't give a hoot. In fact, I've been looking into changing my full name and transferring to another uni far away from here, so I didn't care. But coupled with my professor's idea, it made me realize something. I could do them over a little bit. A lot of people think revenge is stupid. I think it's only that way if you let it consume you. I spent a night awake planning this, but it ended up being so easy. I replied to the email from the lawyer, but not to him. I replied to a joint account my parents had, told them how I didn't see them as my parents, regardless of biological bonds, so I would not be taking the test, how I was waiting for their divorce, how much better it'd be like that. It just went on. I know they read it because I got responses from both of their lawyers. It made me so mad that even after reading all of that, they still didn't talk to me. Then on Saturday evening, I had lunch with my uncle, mom's brother and dad's best friend, and his wife. They were supposed to be on my side. They were the ones who told me they were sorry for me. I told them about how I planned on taking my parents to court so that they would have to at least still pay for the rest of my degree. But I also told Auntie how I was planning on posting about all they had done. I asked them not to tell my parents and confessed how I had been planning their divorce so that I could get money on advance without waiting for either of them to pass. It almost made me sick saying all this stuff, but it worked. Not even a day later, and the entire family was turning against me. Even my cousin seemed a bit put off, but she lives for the drama, I guess, so she still talked to me. A family full of rats, not a single trustworthy soul. I mostly confirmed it to some of the people who talked to me, telling them about how I really wanted the money and couldn't care less about my parents. I was contacted by the lawyer, now apparently their lawyer, and with the help of my professor, we crafted a contract where they would give me, right now, enough to finish my education. It was way more than just enough, but I wanted it to be as bad as possible. We wouldn't have contact again, and I would give up the right to sue them for this reason in the future. It took them days to announce they'd be renewing their vows. Now this time, without a devil by their side. They said that they could work through anything if they had each other. They have each other, but they don't have me anymore. That's the curse they're disguising as a blessing. I know for a fact they won't divorce now. They already tarnished their little perfect reputation by publicly admitting that they cheated, but they messed with their own egos by going back on their word and not actually divorcing. There's not a single possibility now that they admit they were wrong again. They cursed each other when they met. They passed the curse on to me, and now they took it back. They are, once again, getting stuck in a loveless marriage that's filled with hate and resentment. But this time around, they don't have a middleman. They're going to make themselves miserable, and I'm so happy about it. Sure, they may have taken away my childhood from me with their crap, but I sure feel like one now, watching with glee as the two people I resent the most bind themselves to one another permanently. The best part is knowing that if they were at any point even remotely decent people, they could so easily get out of this. But no, they never will, because they'd rather rot in that misery than admit they messed up. They got exactly what they wanted. They're the victims, the poor souls who were so in love that they couldn't see through it. It's perfect. At this point, it's too late for them to do anything. Even if they do realize what I did, what are they going to do? Admit they're not the victims? That I played up how bad I was to make them look better? That there's no real love there? No, they won't. They will not realize, because right now they're riding the high of getting what they wanted, and by the time it fades away, they'll be like two bulls in a pit, too busy fighting to think about anything else. If they ever do realize, they won't tell. Why would they? Who would even believe it when all I've done is try to prove them right? As for me, my professor has been a lifesaver. She helped me gather the paperwork I needed to transfer to another uni and got me in contact with the amazing lawyer who helped me write the contract. I needed it to be a contract. If we had gone to court over this, I would have had to deal with these jerks for so much longer. On top of that, well, a contract that seems entirely made by me makes me look so much worse than a decision made by a judge. Right now I'm trying to focus on passing all my finals, but I'll update again if I happen to be wrong and they do divorce. I'm sorry to those who assumed I wasn't like them. I wanted them to suffer the way I did, and I truly believe dealing with each other or having to admit they were wrong is the worst suffering I could inflict on them. So yeah, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. How can I, male 33, comfort my wife who's 27 in her depression after she fell for a scam and spent $25,000? My wife of 8 years fell victim to a scam, in which she sent roughly $25,000 to a scammer who promised to transfer $10 million to her so that she could help people in Africa. So it was well-intended, but did not seek my counsel initially. After she sent $6,000, she then approached me and I pointed out the red flags in the story. She prayed about it and felt that God told her it was the right thing to do. This became a point of contention in our marriage for the past 3 months. She opened and maxed out 2 credit cards to keep it from me. She never lied to me about it when I asked her, but certainly avoided telling me the whole truth. This bled into our normal lives as well. She used to call and text me about her days and things she has questions about. She's withdrawn from me, except for the day-to-day items needed to keep the family running. I feel similar to having been cheated on, just more of a financial affair. I obviously have trust issues when it comes to money with her. I've opened separate accounts and taken her name off my credit cards. There isn't anything left of our savings, including our emergency savings. I've cut my spending back tremendously. I used to go out to eat twice a week and bring food from home the other 3 days. I now only bring food from home. I haven't bought a new video game in the last 3 months. This has impacted my life and limited what I can do. I understand that she is who I married, and I have no interest in divorce. I accept this hardship that she brought upon us. I just want to move beyond this and grow back together. This brings me to the point that I am writing for advice about. She told the scammer she isn't sending any more money. They're still in communication, but the scam is starting to fall apart. My wife is becoming more and more depressed as it does. She says this gave her a lot of purpose in her life. I want to comfort her and do whatever I can to bring her out of her depression. I know that time will be my best friend, but I know that I can do things to help. But I'm still angry at her for spending our entire savings and racking up credit card debt. How can I comfort her without condoning her actions? Edit. Thank you to the very few of you that actually offered objective advice on her depression. To the rest of you, shame on you. Wait, she's still communicating with the scammer? Is she insane, or are you? One of you has to be in order to let this situation continue. Look, the behavior has to stop before forgiveness and comforting can stop. You've just avoided the conflict by restricting her access to what little money you have left, but that's not good enough. You need to actually get through to her and talk this out, or it will happen again. Surprised no one else had pointed this out yet. Why on earth did she think it was okay to spend $25,000 without asking you in the first place? Forget the scam for a second. She made a life-changing financial decision behind your back. That's messed up on so many levels, no matter what it is. If divorce isn't on the table, she absolutely needs counseling. This is the type of reckless behavior that leads to, "I bought you a new car for Christmas." Yeah, surprise. The whole thing is on loan in our names. Isn't that awesome? Only $900 a month for 72 months. Absolutely seen this happen, especially with credit cards. Did she send the money directly from the credit cards? If so, can't you dispute the charge and do a back charge on it, especially if it was done fraudulently? Is she still in contact with the scammer? Have you contacted the authorities? Both of you should seek therapy. Her depression likely was there before this scam, and you need to find out the source of her depression if you want to improve your marriage. My husband ditched us to go see the Grateful Dead, and I'm done. My husband is a deadhead. His entire identity is built around this band, and he's seen them in their various incarnations over 50 times. Normally, I don't mind, but 2 years ago, I was in an accident that left me unable to work. I now receive a tiny disability check once a month for it. He works, but it hasn't been easy with the cost of everything skyrocketing. My disability check doesn't even cover the full cost of our rent, even though our rent is the lowest in our area. Long story short, Dead & Company is made up of what remains of the Grateful Dead, and this is supposed to be their last tour. We live on the East Coast, where he's already seen them twice, which was already more than we can afford. But a few days ago, he took out a loan and bought tickets to go see their final show in San Francisco, along with round-trip air and hotel for whatever else he needs out there. Me and the kids are left with $10, some pocket change, and what feels like a very big forget you. School starts back in a month, and the kids both need school supplies and clothes. I could name 1,000 things that we need, things that we're going without while money is tight, but this is what he chose to do. We're not going to starve over the weekend, but I don't even have enough money to go get them a pizza while their dad is having a blast on the other side of the country and hanging out with some of his online deadhead fam. I understand that this band means a lot to him, and I tried to be supportive of that, but I feel like he's crossed a line here. He refused to talk about how much all of this is costing us, but when I looked up the cost of the concert tickets, flight tickets, hotels, transportation, and food, the bare minimum figure I could get is still around $1,000. It could very well be, and probably is, a lot more than that. I've supported him through a lot of things, but this weekend, while he's off having fun and leaving us to fend for ourselves, I'm slowly planning my divorce. I'm playing nice while I get all of my ducks in a row, but this is it for me. I'm tired of watering down essentials like shampoo or laundry soap, living off rice and beans just for him to turn around and take out a loan so that he can go to a show all by himself across the country. Update. I wasn't expecting I'd need an update already, but he knows. Someone here decided to share my event elsewhere, and he saw it on Facebook. He's angry that I've made him look like a jerk. I told him all I did was talk about it without naming him, and if people decide he's a jerk based on his actions, he's got no one to blame but himself. I'm so nervous, I'm shaking, and I feel like I'm sick. Some friends have offered to come help me pack and let me and the boys stay with them until I can figure out something more permanent. Edit. Also, please don't try to send me, or anyone pretending to be me or pretending to collect on my behalf, anything. We're in good hands right now, and we're not going to go without. I figured, since this whole thing blew up today, I might as well tell all of my friends what's going on, and they've really pulled up for us. So, we're definitely going to be okay. My ex was a huge juggalette. Knowing all their songs, was big in the community, all that jazz. Like you, I tried to be supportive, even though I didn't like their everything for the most part. It was almost her whole identity to be one. I too learned the hard way that the needs of us/me were secondary to that lifestyle. We never spent Valentine's Day together because that was Juggalo Day, so she had to be somewhere. The one time I decided to give it a try, I had to back out because I needed to work a bunch of overtime in order to not get behind on bills, and she went without me. She would bend over backwards to overwork herself in order to pay for tickets to these events, but wouldn't do the same when money was getting tight for bills. When I broke my foot 2 days after buying a house for us, she would barely work to help with the bills, but would work to buy tickets. While I was out of work and unable to walk, she would leave for a week or two to go to these events and leave me alone, all the while trying to convince me to go with a broken foot. All while I had to dip into my dwindling savings to pay for everything. In the 4 months I was out of work, she contributed $1,200 total for all 4 months, even though we agreed to go half and half on bills, which was about $850 for both of us after everything was said and done. Normally I don't respond to these kinds of posts with, "You should leave them," because it feels callous to say, because sometimes you can't just leave them like you leave a bad party. But this, leave them. Let them live their one-note life. Maybe, like my ex, he'll find someone just as into that culture and they can be happy together. You deserve someone who doesn't throw you to the side just because it's maybe the last time I'll get to see them live, or whatever other excuse they come up with. The excuses never stop, and that trust can't realistically be rebuilt. Am I the jerk for trying to get my daughter to switch schools? My ex and I share custody of our daughter, Kelly, who's 12. She was 3 when we split. We have a court order that we have to share the cost of her education through her graduating high school, and we have a 2 yes, 1 no policy. We did this as we always intended for her to attend private schools, which is quite the investment. Plus, she's both of our kid. Kelly's been in a private school that focuses on STEM. It's K through 12, so she's been there since kindergarten. She loves it. The only issue has been it's a bit of a drive, 45 minutes, and they don't have buses. We've tried to find carpool situations, but the only person from the school in our area moved a few years ago. No relatives nearby to help. We tried hiring someone to drive her, but they weren't reliable. Still, it's been worth the sacrifice. Important note, Kelly lives with me during the week and sees her dad on the weekends. I'm the one who brings her to and from school. Last year I remarried. My husband brought his 2 kids into the relationship. They're 16 and 17. Both attend a private school in town. Similar issue with no busing. We also don't have their own cars and we can't afford that. My husband is a widower, so he's their only parent. He starts work at 6 a.m., so it's up to me to get the kids to school every day. It's been a bit of a mess trying to get everyone there on time. My stepkid's private school doesn't have before or after school programs and starts after Kelly's. It's a tight squeeze to get her there, then get back to their school. After much discussion, my husband and I decided it would be best for Kelly to start at her step-sibling's school. We talked to my ex about it, and he was very hesitant, but said if Kelly wanted it, he'd be on board. Kelly doesn't want to. This school doesn't have a STEM program. She doesn't want to leave her friends. She asked why her step-siblings don't have to move to her school, and I said it's because that's more than my husband can afford. I'd chip in, but I can't afford to pay 2.5 tuitions, the half being what I pay for hers. Plus, they aren't into STEM or science, which is what the school is heavily focused on. Kelly is refusing to go. I've tried talking to her, bribing her, etc. She isn't budging. Therefore, neither is her dad. It's frustrating, and I voiced that. I even tried to compromise that it would just be up until her step-siblings graduated, 2 years, and she said, in that case, I should easily put up with this for 2 years. Now she's been at her dad's and says she's not coming home until I drop the matter. I said I want to talk about it, but she refuses. Am I the jerk? Edit. As it's come up several times, prior to me, my husband and his kids lived closer to their school. Now they live with me, and that's out of walking distance. My stepkids are on financial aid for school. We have a mortgage. It isn't just the cost of the car, but gas and insurance. Yes, I can afford my daughter's tuition and a driver at one point, but I was splitting the cost with my ex, who makes far more. Edit 2. The money saved from going from 2 homes to 1 has gone to medical debt from his wife passing of cancer, plus helping me pay off my mortgage. We don't have the money. There's no public transport. No one is willing to take them. You're the jerk. You have a kid who actually likes going to school, and you pull her out because of your stepkids? Ask your husband to drive his own kids before work instead of neglecting your own. You can afford 3 kids in private school and to hire a driver, but can't afford cars for the teenagers? That's laughable. Get them cheap cars like most teens get, or tell them to save up and buy their own car like the rest. But you can absolutely afford a car, just maybe not one as nice as your apparent lifestyle would be accustomed to. And you're the jerk. It sounds like she's in the better school, and it wouldn't be such a tight run if she was dropped off a bit earlier. You can't just uproot her social life and aspirations like STEM, etc., because it's easier for your new family, which she didn't get a say in. Maybe you should switch so she lives with her dad in the week and you on the weekends to make school transport easier, or hire a better or more reliable driver for her. But she should stay in the school she's in. Why should she get a bad deal because it's inconvenient for you and your new family when she as your biological daughter should come first? If hubby can't afford his kids' school fees, that's his problem, not hers. Karen expected me to risk my life for her. I, 29 male, work for a small hardware store in my city. I'm about 6'2", chubby, but still muscular from all the heavy lifting I do for work. Early this morning, me, and we will call her Nancy, 49 female, were at the store before opening to do inventory. It was about an hour before opening, and Nancy went outside to grab something from her car. She came back in a few minutes later with someone walking behind her, holding her at pew-pew point. I've never been involved in any kind of robbery before, aside from minor shoplifting attempts, so I froze in place. The guy then pointed it at me, telling me to keep my hands visible and to follow them. Nancy was technically the opening manager and therefore had keys to the store and vault in the back office, so he held me up while she emptied it. He was gone in about 10 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Our store doesn't have any kind of silent alarm, so once we were sure he was gone, I went and called 911. After I got off the phone, Nancy comes up to me and asks, word for word, "What is wrong with you?" I stare at her, completely caught off guard, and asked her what she was talking about. She proceeds to rant at me up until the police arrive. To sum up her rant, she basically said I was a pathetic excuse of a man for not protecting a single mother when she was in danger. I asked her what she expected me to do in that situation. She expected me to try to get the pew-pew away from him so that he couldn't hurt her. It was around that point that the police arrived to take our statements and ensured we were okay. My actual boss is on vacation this week, but has given me the next 2 days off, paid, I love this guy, to recover from the shock of the situation and to call him if I need anything. I haven't told him about Nancy's rant yet. I'm still trying to process everything she said to me. Nancy is divorced, and her son is a 19-year-old college student who doesn't live with her. During her rant, she kept going on about how, "Who would watch my baby if something happened to me?" Stuff like that. I'm hoping it was just adrenaline from the robbery, but if the next time I see her she's still acting this way, I'll report her. Edit 2. There have been some comments claiming Nancy was in on it. She seemed genuinely terrified, so I doubt she was, but now I can't get that thought out of my head. Update. The hardware store I work for is small, just in the physical sense. It's still technically one of the big-name hardware stores in the US, just not warehouse-sized like the ones with the orange and blue logos. 2. When I said that Nancy had emptied the vault, I wasn't referring to an actual safe or lockbox. The vault in our store refers to a small, double-locked room where they store the money orders the store receives from the big armored trucks. 3. Nancy actually is the HR manager for our store. Because the store manager was out of town for the week, she was the acting store manager along with the other person who was off that day. My actual store manager, Nancy, and the third associate are the only ones with keys to the vault. Now for the update. I'm not sure if I'm more angry or scared right now, but I got off the phone with my store manager half an hour ago. He was reviewing the security camera footage that was sent to him from his hotel room. I knew the store had cameras. What I didn't know is that we have cameras that face the parking lot. Some of you mentioned it in the comments, so you may not be surprised to hear that Nancy has been arrested for assisting in robbing the store. I can't go into extreme detail, but according to my boss, the robber was seen exiting Nancy's car when she went outside. They spoke for a bit before walking back to the store. I don't know much else aside from the guy was her new boyfriend. I'm feeling so many different emotions right now. Confusion, anger, fear, etc. She did all of this for just a few $1,000s. I don't know if she was chewing me out about the single mother thing because she had hoped I would have done something to warrant getting hurt over. All I know is that this woman, who originally did my hiring interview, is insane. As I said, I think I'm going to look into therapy for this. It's just too much for me to process alone. My boss has offered me additional leave of absence if needed as well. So for now, I'm going to take some time off, and if I get any more info I can share, I'll further update you. 10 years ago, I gave dating advice to a neckbeard and still think about him. So this happened when I, now 30 female, was in college on a dating site. I was messaged by a neckbeard-looking guy. In his profile pic, he wore a fedora, had a beard, was overweight, etc. His opening message was something along the lines of, "I know there's no way you'd ever be into me, but you seem really cool." I knew that I wasn't interested in him romantically, but I checked out his profile because I was also looking for friends and wanted to see what we had in common. What I saw on his page broke my heart. Just paragraphs of him saying self-deprecating things about how he's lame or ugly, or a loser that no one would ever want to date. He was practically apologizing for existing. I think what hurt the most was knowing a lot of what he wrote down was probably said to him in the past, and as someone who's been bullied before and also had self-confidence issues, I couldn't turn a blind eye. I replied to him and politely told him I'm not interested in dating him, but asked if I could give him some advice for his profile. He agreed to hear me out, and I began typing away. I think I spent a solid 15 to 30 minutes writing my reply. I explained that if you write paragraphs about how much you think you suck and aren't fun to date, people will believe you and not give you a chance. I said he should try to talk more about his interests and what he likes to do so that he's more likely to appeal to someone with the same interests and hobbies as him. I emphasized that he should try and put his best foot forward and talk more about his good qualities, being a good friend or a good listener or open-minded, etc. Once I clicked send, I waited for his response with bated teeth. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, "Honestly, I was expecting you to tear me apart and make fun of me, but this sounds genuinely helpful. Thank you." We wished each other good luck and never spoke again since. It's been over 10 years since that exchange happened, and I frequently wonder what happened to him. I've been thinking about him a lot more since the rise of Alpha Bro podcasts. I want to believe he tried working on his self-confidence issues and was able to move forward, but I also know that people online are mean, and there was definitely a culture of making fun of people in fedoras with neckbeards, even if they weren't pulling the "milady" stuff. I know that even if he's on Reddit, the odds of him finding this post are slim to none. But if you're a guy who wore a fedora in Maryland or DC 10 years ago and got online dating advice from a lady who was an art major, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're doing better. I hope you learn to love more about yourself, and I hope you found love too. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.